find the who and not the how. Yep. The right person in the right position is going to make your job 10 times easier.
What's up? It's Austin Rutherford back here again where we talk business, finance, and real estate. Today I got one of my boys, Tyler King, here with me. He's crushing it in the real estate world, especially the apartment building space, which we'll get into a lot more here in a second. But yeah, man, I just appreciate you being on here and sharing with everybody.
Hey, thanks for having me. And I want to preface this by saying, if you're following this guy, he's the real deal. He's making it happen, and I just love hanging around him. I always learn something new.
I appreciate that, brother, for sure. Hanging around good people, that's important.
No doubt.
So, but no, like I said, appreciate you being here. You know, kind of tell people who you are, where you from, and what all you got going on right now.
Yeah, so I'm Tyler King from Nashville, 31 years old. I go by TK. Right now I'm in the multifamily space pretty heavily, and I still own a residential development company as well in Nashville. Those are my main lines of business.
Love it, love it. And we'll get into like unit count and all that stuff, which is amazing. But you know, kind of tell them how you started. What was the first thing in real estate that got you involved in the game?
Yeah, so I was on the search for my first home, and I found where I wanted to be, the house I thought I was going to live in, and purchased it. It needed a big rehab job. And
they all do.
Yeah, they all do when we first start, right?
For sure.
And so I was fixing it up, and I was planning on living in it. It was going to be like a 6 to 9 month rehab. And over that course of time, I found another spot that I wanted to be in. And so sold that one once I was completed with the rehab, and ended up making more money than I was making at my job at the current time. So yeah, it turned out all right.
I love it. Where were you working at before real estate?
I was in the insurance business.
Okay, just selling insurance?
Selling insurance, property and casualty, and that's kind of my background. Like, my father owned an insurance agency, and you know, I thought that's what I was going to do, but once I got in the business for a year and a half, I realized pretty quick that was not what I wanted to do, but yeah, it's worked out.
Got you, man. That's awesome. So, kind of house hack / flipped your first house.
Yeah.
And then,
hey, like even that other house that I ended up buying, I house hacked. So I bought it, it needed work.
Yeah.
I rehabbed it, refied that, pulled some money out, and 2 of my buddies from college ended up moving in. And you know, they were covering the rent or the mortgage payment, paying their rent, and yeah,
living for free.
Living for free, it worked out.
For sure. Those who don't know what house hacking is, you live in a house and you have income on the same property, so you literally live for free.
Right.
Like usually one of the first places I recommend people starting, because you literally don't have to pay money to live.
Yeah.
And it's cool. You can like hack it. Everything in life can be done for free.
Yeah.
Through other people paying you.
No, it definitely can.
I love it. So cool. Obviously started with that, the house hack. And what aspects of real estate have you been in, you know, throughout the last 5-6 years?
Yeah, so I've done wholesaling, I've done flipping, I have my realtor's license, I've done multifamily. Like, I feel like I've found a way to be profitable in every avenue of real estate, you know, that exists out there. There's so many ways to generate revenue off of real estate, and I've done a lot of them.
Yep.
You know, like I said, right now I'm heavily involved in multifamily, the development company, which is winding down, and I'm solely going to focus on multifamily. But those have been, you know, the avenues and vehicles that have gotten me to sit here with you today.
100%, 100%. Yeah. So let's just get the elephant out of the room.
Okay.
How many units do you own?
We're up to a little over 2,500 units.
2,500 units.
Yeah, we've got another 120 under contract. We'll close next month, and yeah, we're rolling.
I love it. So when I first met this guy, he's in another mastermind that we're in, and we're in the Facebook group, and he posted something like, yeah, you know, I'm getting ready to close 1,100 units on one transaction, just like boom. I was like, what in the world? It ended up going through about a year ago or so? Or?
About a year and a half ago.
Yeah, that's insane. 1,100 in one swoop.
Right.
That's amazing, man.
And it goes back, I'm sure you'll get into this later, but the mindset is so important to think big, you know? Yeah. It's the same concepts, it's just bigger numbers.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
And that's one thing I love about it. Like, most of my money's been in the single family residential, and it's a purchase, a refi, and or a sale. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing, just bigger numbers.
Right.
More zeros on the end of everything, including the profit.
It really is. I mean, it's that simple.
Yeah.
So when you boil it down, it's a pretty easy concept, right?
Yep. I love it. The 2,500 units, what's the portfolio valued at?
Probably about 175 million-ish right now.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I love it. That's phenomenal. So development company, an apartment building company, obviously. You know, to have a scale like that, you obviously got to have good people in play.
Yes.
What does your team look like right now?
My team is incredible. They make everything run.
Yep.
They allow me to be here, you know, like I said, talking with you.
Yep.
So I've got a COO/asset manager, and she kind of runs things. She probably has 4 or 5 members on her team that solely work for me. And then underneath them, we have a property management company. They have an in-house team of 6 to 8 people that support my portfolio. And then, you know, they oversee each property individually and the employment at the property level. So altogether, it's probably somewhere close to 100, maybe a little over employees.
That's phenomenal.
That just, you know, it runs from a top to bottom organization,
Yep.
and it's just a smooth system.
So you got, you know, you got the COO, your internal operation
Right.
that manages the property management operation, that manages the people on boots on the ground.
Yes.
I love it. And then how about the development side?
The development side, you know, you have teams of subs and
Yep.
whatnot, but overall it's me, 2 of the partners, and one of the partner is the in-house general contractor.
I love it.
Yeah. So
And then they run the construction, the development.
they run everything. You know, the only really say-so I have in that anymore is acquiring and disposing of the assets.
Got you.
So it's a smooth system, and it's been pretty hands-off. The development company nowadays, which is, you know, where you want to get things ultimately.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like you said, like your team is everything. What's the saying? Your boat can only go as far as the team you have on it, or something like that.
I think that's right.
If you have the wrong people, it's everything too in a negative way.
No doubt. I mean, you have to only have A players surrounding you, or otherwise you're gonna sink.
Yeah. Well, so some people say like, well, I can't hire that person because they cost too much. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The right employee, pay them whatever, because they will make your life so much easier, and they will make you far more money than, you know, you could dream that salary would cover.
Yep. I
cannot stress enough how important A players are.
Agreed. I don't know about you, but I've definitely not hired A players because I was trying to stay on a budget.
Yeah.
And it turns out the same every single time.
You're constantly stressed out. You're talking to people you don't want to talk to. You're the problem solver, having to fix everything, and that's just not. You can't grow like that.
Yeah, I love it, man. So let's take it back to the first apartment building deal. What did that look like? Where did the lead come from? Like how did it all transpire?
Yeah, so it was probably 2.5 years before I did anything in the multifamily space.
After you were in real estate?
After I was in real estate. No, maybe longer than that, maybe 3 years or so. But
Okay.
I had read a book. I put myself through boot camps and through the education. And like I said, I didn't do anything for 2.5 years, just constantly, you know, educating myself. When the opportunity came,
Yeah.
I would be ready to take those steps.
Real quick, what's the book that you told me about?
Oh, Multifamily Millions by David Lindahl changed my life,
Yep.
no doubt.
And going back to that, something that all successful people have is the speed of implementation.
Mm-hmm.
He told me that book, it's already delivered at my house for when we get home.
Right.
So you got to be able to take action, which is another huge thing. So Multifamily Millions, read that, and then continue.
Multifamily Millions went to boot camps, and then, you know, 2.5 years later, a deal was brought by a broker, and it was a 200 unit deal. Purchase price was like 8.125. Big deal for your first deal.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So we put together 4 other partners, you know, just money, putting together a typical syndication, but this was actually a joint venture. So took it down, bank financing, and then the plan was...
So take it back a couple seconds too.
Okay.
So you said the deal came from a broker.
Yes.
So in residential, it's marketing to find sellers to negotiate with.
Right.
In the apartment building world, you've said that it really doesn't come direct. It usually comes through brokers.
Right. In the multifamily space, brokers make your business. You're getting all the big deals, all the best deals from brokers. So it's so important to constantly network with the top brokers in the regions that you want to invest in.
So these are like realtors or brokers that are helping brokers sell apartment buildings.
Yeah, I mean, so you're not spending, you know, I think in the residential space, you're probably used to spending money constantly on marketing and mailers and VAs for phone calls. You really don't have that in the multifamily space. It's all broker relationships, and that's how every deal pretty much gets done.
Got you.
At least sizable ones.
Yeah. You said once it gets to listed, it's probably not worth it.
If it's on LoopNet or CoStar, you know, chances are it's not a deal.
Yeah. A couple quick ways on how new people that are trying to get into apartments can meet brokers.
Yeah, so I would go on LoopNet, I would go on CoStar. LoopNet is free, and you go on that website and look at recent transactions for the last year. Well, you're gonna find who's doing deals and who's not. And in the multifamily space, there are not a lot of brokers out there who are doing a lot of deals. Typically, it's a collective group of brokers doing the majority of the deals. So you'll be able to tell pretty quickly who's doing deals and who's not.
Yeah.
So you find those people, those brokers, call them, build rapport week after week after week, and build that relationship to where, you know, eventually they'll start sending you stuff.
Yep.
And they'll vet you and they'll send you, you know, terrible deals, and you gotta underwrite it, tell them why this doesn't work. You know, send me something real.
Yeah.
And then eventually one day when you're prepared and ready to go, it happens.
That's where you get most of your brokers are calling you like, yo, this is a good one, let's make it happen.
Exactly. Nowadays, that's how it works nowadays. They call me, or they call my partners and say, hey, you need to seriously look at this deal. I think it works. And then that's when we take things seriously from our side of things.
I love it. I love it. All right. So there, and then syndication is where you get a bank to finance it, and you bring in people to fund the gap of, you know, bank will finance 70, 80, 90%, and then you'll bring in your money or private money to fund the difference.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
So that was the first deal, and then how did it transpire after that?
So that was the first deal. We owned that deal for 13 months, and it was supposed to be a long-term hold, but
Money talks.
yeah, money talks. That's a good way to put it. We had a insane offer come out of California.
Yep.
You know, West Coast money. It was probably cheap to them in Nashville. It was a local deal in Nashville.
Yeah.
And we ended up having to take that offer.
Yeah.
And we 1031 that into something bigger.
So that deal, it was going to be a long-term hold. You thought it was.
Yes.
Then you ended up getting an offer from a California investor.
Yes.
What did the numbers look like? Purchase, any rehab, and then the sale price.
So we purchased that deal for a little over $8 million, and like I said, it was a long-term hold.
Yeah.
And we probably spent $200,000 on rehab.
Nice.
And
then
then
an apartment building is not that much money.
it's not that much money in an apartment building,
Yeah.
because, you know, it's a lot of doors. You're generating a lot of revenue. You have expenses, you know.
Yeah.
But we got an offer for $13.5 million. So, you know, it was a shock. And then all of a sudden we had another offer
Yep.
for the same price, like they were going to match it.
Yeah.
So then intermediary, there was a little bit of a bidding war behind the scenes.
Yep.
And the California buyer ended up putting down hard earnest money. So we thought, okay, maybe this is legit.
Yeah.
And hard earnest money is basically a non-refundable deposit you put
Yep.
down to show good faith.
Put your money where your mouth is.
Right.
Yep.
And so then we took it seriously,
Yeah.
and it ended up closing, and, you know, we netted a little over $5 million on that deal in 13 months.
I love it. I love it.
And like I said, we 1031'd it into a bigger property, a better positioned asset for long term.
That's phenomenal, bro. And like we said, we talked about it earlier. Single family, you're not making $5 million.
No.
Like, if you hit 100K, like, it's a good deal, right?
Yeah.
But that's the power of multifamily. It's more zeros, but there's more zeros on the profit as well.
Right.
So that's phenomenal.
And you know, same amount of work too, for the most part.
Yep.
It's just scalability, and that's what you get in multifamily.
Yep. I love it, man. Like, every year, like, how many units have you added? You didn't go 0 to 2,500 in 6 months.
No.
So what does that look like?
No, not at all. So that was 2016, the end of 2016 when I purchased my first deal. And I didn't do anything for a couple of years because at the time I had a couple really big residential development projects going on, and
Yeah.
my time was sucked into that.
Yeah.
So we ended up wrapping those up around 2018, 2019, and then we picked up another one along the way, but then in 2019, that was the big pop to where I picked up, I think, 1,900 units
In a year?
in a year. You know, part of it was that big portfolio, and then the same seller had one more property, which, by the way, that was a 216 unit property for $10 million that we bought with zero money down.
That's when they owner finance.
Owner finance, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so that was sweet. But yeah, cut to today, you know, we're stabilizing all of our assets that we've purchased in the past 5 years and to really set them up, as well as our investors for future growth and stabilization.
I love it. I love it. So now inside of the multifamily business, most of your time now is spent like analyzing deals.
Yes.
On the front end.
Yes.
So super front end heavy.
Right. It is front end heavy. I mean, all of my time, like you just said, is spent on acquisition, putting together the deal, putting together the financing, lining up investor money, lining up insurance, you know, all the underwriting that goes into it, inspections and whatnot. And then once we take it down, our team is just, they're so great. They just take the ship and they cultivate it and just make it happen. Like they run with it. We're pretty hands off once it's acquired, but you know, we get weekly reports. We're still watching over the assets and making sure everything's running correctly. And if we have to step in, we do. But our team is just great, and so a lot of times we never have to step in.
I love it. And I'm assuming it's much like single family. You get a ton of deals. You gotta get through all the bull crap to find the good stuff.
You do, and nowadays I don't get that as much, just because the people that I talk to, I've been talking with for years, and they know like I'm not gonna buy a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
You know, they're gonna send me deals that work.
Yep.
Because once you build that relationship, they want to deal with people who they know can close, because it makes their job 10 times easier.
That's how they get paid.
That's how they get paid.
Yeah.
And they want to work with people who pay them, right?
For sure. No, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So you've obviously, you know, built a very large multifamily portfolio, but it started with single family houses.
It did.
So what's that shift? Because there's a lot of people that are fearful of going from a single family to even a 20 or a 50 or let alone 100 or 1,000 units.
Yeah.
What's one like big shift that you had to go through to be comfortable, you know, taking down something with a lot more zeros on it?
I think it goes back to mentorship and education. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So if you're solely in the single family world, like you don't even know the multifamily world exists or how it works or the numbers. So just investing in yourself, finding a mentor, somebody like you, you know, or somebody you look up to that you want to be at their same level,
Yep.
and modeling their format.
Yep. People like trying to recreate the wheel.
Yeah.
Like there's whatever you want to do, somebody's already done it. So like, why recreate the process? Why not learn from the person who's already been there and done it?
I mean, exactly. You said it.
I love it. I love it. Cool. So we'll get to like where people can find you on Instagram and stuff here in a second. But one thing maybe that you've lived by for your whole life, or one thing that always resonated with you, that you want to leave the audience with, what would one thing maybe be?
That's tough. I would say work smarter, not harder.
Yep.
And I would also say find the who and not the how.
Yep.
The right person in the right position is going to make your job 10 times easier. And instead of you trying to focusing on your weaknesses to where, hey, you're not the best at that, but somebody else is really good at that.
Yep. And they love to do that.
And they love to do that.
Yeah.
And putting them in that position to where it rises all boats, you know.
I love it, man. And you said, you know, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
This guy is inspiring to me. You know, like I have a business, I'm making money, but to see what he's been able to do and the amount of time you've been able to do it and the freedom to do what you want to do has been very, very inspiring, brother.
Yeah, but I don't want to mislead people, but it wasn't always that way.
For sure.
The late nights were put in, you
Yeah.
know, the time and the money spent on educating yourself and
Yep.
putting yourself in those positions.
Failures.
Yeah, and failures. And when it comes time, you know, eventually you're ready
Yeah.
and you capitalize on it.
I love it, brother. So, anybody who wants to, you know, find more about you, follow you, where can they find you?
The easiest way is Instagram, TK_Nashville.
Cool.
That's it.
We'll link that in the description below, so you can definitely check them out. Like I said, you've been inspiring to me, brother. So
Hey.
I definitely